Okay.
Can this go like? I don't want this to be in the middle. Where should I put this?
Right, anywhere, it doesn't matter. As long as it doesn't touch your hair.
So where do I put this? You should be the one pouring.
You definitely poured yourself a lot more than me.
I already had some in the cup.
Oh, okay. Is that a jar?
It's like a goblet.
Okay, so we're gonna pick a book-related question from the goblet. All right, let's see what this is. It's one of yours.
No.
And you wrote a whole paragraph.
No. We can't start off with a whole paragraph.
Reading preferences.
Where do you like to read? Things you hate in books, things you like, your favorite tropes, cliches.
Okay, when we were writing these, I told you this was like 5 questions in one. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. Like I said, we're gonna do 3 things you love in books, 3 things that you do not love in books, and that is your reading preferences.
If the pages aren't made out of that really good
I
quality
guess,
paper.
yeah, if you can be that neurotic about it, I guess.
Listen, you don't have those kinds of preferences because you don't read.
I listen to the damn books, okay? There, I said it. What do I hate in books? I think that honestly, nowadays, people, unless you write a book that is over 350 pages, you can just not sell a book. You just can't distribute it. Like the publishers just won't accept it. So you'll have a perfectly good book and it's good, but it has to meet like a certain page count, a certain word count. And if it's below that, they won't take it. So you literally have publishers telling the writers, go back home and add like another 150 pages to this. An example of that is like a good book, which is like Addie LaRue. It's good.
Don't talk about my Addie LaRue.
But it's good. But it feels like, yeah, it could have been 100 pages shorter. And it would have been just as good.
So
if not better.
So essentially you're saying you hate that most
It's
books
fluff.
are longer than they need to
They're
be.
fluff. It's fluff. It's like they're trying to justify to people why they should spend $15, $17 on an ebook. And then people feel like, oh, well, but if I buy the book and it's only 200 pages and I paid $17 for it, it doesn't feel like it's worth it.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the times with books that are longer than they actually need to be,
Which
I
is
find
almost all of them.
myself trying to absorb every single detail. And like you told me the other day, I was like reading something very convoluted and you're like, just go with the flow. And I think my literature teacher actually told us that in like senior year, like with Crime and Punishment, for example. And I'll never forget, she said, just stick to the main plot and try to just understand and grasp what you can. Don't drive yourself crazy with trying to understand every single character's background, history, because you'll just stop enjoying it.
Most of Hemingway's books, which are considered classics, they're all super short, extremely thin. I mean, honestly, like The Old Man and the Sea is thinner than my thumb. It's actually like, it's about as thick as my pinky. And it's considered like an incredible classic. They still sell it.
I don't know. I'm a purist. I want to read every single page and understand every single page and go back.
Right, and Crime and Punishment
to...
is actually probably one of those that you should do that for, to be honest with you.
I remember reading that book and thinking to myself, I thought I liked reading. I do like reading, and I had to remind myself as I was reading that book that, girl, you do like reading. This is a struggle. That book was a struggle.
Girl, you do like reading. This guy's just Russian. Anyway.
So I dislike it when you're reading a mystery and then all of a sudden you think you have it figured out, or you have a few variations of how the ending could go, and then they throw a wrench in, and the mystery is explained by some random explanation that came out of left field that you would have never been able to, predict, and it's just some random third person that you haven't met, a character you haven't even met, or all of a sudden they exist and they're the ones who have been wreaking havoc throughout the entire book. I can't stand that. Be able to predict the endings. A little twist here and there at the end, fantastic. If you can surprise me, that's great. But if you surprise me with something like a third party character that hasn't, even been part of the story, yeah, no, it's just a waste at that point.
You can show the book that you're...
Oh, I did.
We have examples of all this, like Addie LaRue for mine.
Well, this book, 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, not to be confused with
The
Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo.
Which I thought was the book. Every single time I saw you reading the 7 Husbands, I thought you were reading this book, and I was still wondering why you weren't finished and why we couldn't talk about it. Is because you were reading the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hardcastle.
Yeah. Exactly. There you go.
Try.
This book was really good. You liked it.
I love this book, but this is also my example. I actually have the exact same dislike about books, which is when the ending is completely unpredictable or completely predictable, which I feel like nowadays every single book falls into one of those two. It never falls into the middle. Like I would love most books, especially mysteries. We both love this book, by the way. But I would love it if most books, especially mysteries, even if I couldn't predict it, it was like something that you missed and you're like, oh, of course,
yeah,
that's what it was. Instead, no, it's like the book just gets to the end and it's like a murder mystery and it's like, oh, it was aliens. You know, it's every single time. It's something, it's too hard to come up with a mystery where it's dangling the answer right in front of you the whole time. It's really hard to write that without having the person just figure it out. So they just decide, don't try to do that altogether.
Do we just give it to them? Or do we just throw them for a loop?
Exactly. Or the book is completely predictable, like most like series are, like for example Bridgerton. Like it's you know where that book is ending.
But it's funny because yes, this book actually has those two things we don't like in a book, but we still liked it a lot.
No, it was amazing. This book is probably the best book I read at the beginning of the year.
But again, I wanted to
the first good book I think I read.
I wanted to take notes and try to remember and understand everything that's going on.
This book is kind of like an Inception kind of book where it's like really kind of complicated and there's a lot of things going on. It's like just relax.
I kind of want to
because you're not gonna figure it out anyway. You spend all this energy trying to dissect every single sentence and every single fact that it's like, dude, it's just gonna be aliens at the end of the book. Oh, I don't like serials. Like I don't know how to say it. Like
a series?
Procedurals. Like for example, CSI, like CSI or Law and Order, those kind of shows where it's just same characters and they just go through like a different case every single time. Like sort of, for example, like the Jack
template type.
Like Jack Reacher or like even though I've read like all of the John Fuller books from David Baldacci. You know, like it's just a lot, and I get it. Like you can't just expect that a writer is gonna write a different book every single year. No. It's a little bit of that, and I feel that especially nowadays, it's harder and harder to find high caliber books that are not part of one of those template style procedural. The same with the thing that happens with CSI. Like you watch CSI, you watch 3 episodes, you can watch 50 more. You will not remember them any better than the first 3 that you watch.
My choice there would be Criminal Minds. Okay, so this one might be controversial, but I really hate the love for the sake of love, that insta-love type of thing in romance novels where...
Bridgerton?
No, there was actually some sort of character development there.
There was character development in that first Bridgerton novel?
Yeah.
I haven't seen the Netflix series, but I read the first novel as a joke, just to mess with you. And there was none of that in that first novel, like whatsoever. It is the most bland, just straightforward, just nothing happens in that book. It is just...
Yes, that's what happens. If Daphne agrees to a fake courtship, Simon can deter the mamas who parade...
There's a question in here where I put that name an adaptation of a book that's actually better than the book. I guarantee you the series is probably better than the book. That book is... There's nothing to that book. But everybody...
Not nothing, just not a lot. But going back to my whole I hate insta-love. And I hate love for the sake of love. This is going to be controversial. I really did not like this book. This is, Colleen Hoover, the whole romance lady that's really popular these days. It has 1 million books. I have 1 million of her books. Yeah, no. You will not be a happy camper. But when it comes to this book, I feel like Tate and Miles. Tate only loved Miles because I don't even know why Tate loved Miles. And I'm not sure why.
Another guy? Or?
I feel like Tate only loved Miles because the author wanted her to love Miles, and I feel like Miles only loved Tate because they wanted her to love Tate. I don't know. Okay book, but yeah, this kind of love for the sake of love. And you know who else is kind of famous for that? Very little bit, because there was, some sort of character development there. Twilight. I can understand why Bella loved Edward. But why did, I mean, I even read Midnight Sun. I don't even understand why Edward loved Bella to the extent that he did. It's just this like passion for the sake of passion. But, you know, I don't know. I don't want to talk about Twilight because that's a love there. But yes, there's a little bit of that.
You should probably read Twilight again. I don't think you'll feel the same way.
I did. I read Midnight Sun when it came out in 2020, and I loved it just as much as I did the first time. That's a bold lie, but I wanted to love it as much as I did back in the day. Come on, guys. There's some things that nostalgia just...
All right. First thing that I do like in books, I like scale. Usually, I want my books to be about something that is important or something that is bigger than the characters that are in the book. Mm-hmm. So, for example, probably my favorite book of that year. Oh no! It's a book so good I actually lent it out. All right, I'll just put the picture. A Gentleman in Moscow. So even though it is the personal story of this one person in this one hotel, but the story is actually about the country as a whole of Russia. So that is what I'm talking about, that the book has to be about something bigger than just the characters that are in the book. So that's why something like Bridgerton or like romantic, novels don't really appeal to me. But it's hard for me to care when it is just this person's problems or whatever, which something that is guilty of that is actually also Addie LaRue, even though I think it's good. But Addie LaRue, for about 75% of it, is just poor Addie, and just Addie's problems, and not focusing on anything bigger than just Addie. So that's what I'm talking about.
You watch yourself when you talk about
Three-Body Problem. I mean, it'll come up. I'm gonna mention that book series every single time we talk.
What is it?
The Three-Body Problem. Oh. Someone else needs to read it. I need to talk to them about it. I need to talk to somebody about this thing.
Don't foresee myself tackling that series.
No.
Although I've never seen you as passionate with a book.
I just can't believe more people have like this.
Yeah, that drove you wild for a few weeks.
It changed my life.
Aww.
At the age of 31.
31. Yeah.
It can't just be about personal problems of this one person. It's like everybody's got problems. So what?
Yeah, but are you a debutante who can't find a prospect because her 7 brothers are threatening all of the men?
That sounds like a personal problem.
I really, really love it when there is a plot twist that is so good that even I didn't see it coming, but it makes perfect sense. So kind of like the opposite side of the coin of what we don't like, the best thing an author can do is make me go, what the... And...
Three-Body Problem.
Yeah, but it makes sense. It just makes the book better. It's not shocking you just for shock value.
Three-Body Problem.
Like, the OG, the classic.
Maybe that's also an adaptation that's better than the book.
You think?
I don't know. I haven't read the book.
I mean, I feel like, what do you say about all the books that came after this?
Oh, the woman, the girl, the lady,
the wife, something. The woman, the lady, the wife, the girl. They're trying to be this, and they will never be this.
That's kind of what I meant about the serialized. When it's just throwaway books following the same kind of thing. Yeah. That's kind of what I meant about
the woman in the window, What She Knew.
Yeah.
The Girl on the Train. Girl on the Train was good, though.
Girl on the Train was good.
I feel like Girl on the Train and Gone Girl are like the OGs, the ones that everyone tries to be afterwards. And they're trying to give us a twist just as good. I'm sorry. Gillian Flynn did it better. Another one that I don't see a lot of people talking about, this book, The Wife Between Us. Again, it has, wife in it, but this one was really, really good. Greer Hendricks and Sarah Pekkanen. Yeah. This had a twist that I don't think anybody could even conceive. I had to read it twice over to understand what was going on. But see, plot twists that make you think about the book afterwards. So you remember specifically the moment where you were when you were reading that plot twist. And then, of course, more recently, Hello. Again, this is Colleen Hoover, the one who wrote that ugly love book that I totally trashed. I'm so sorry.
And you gave her another chance?
No, this is the first book I ever read from her. And it is literally her best book. Well, this and it ends with us. But the
is this
twist,
like about a threesome? Or?
Maybe if I don't tell you, you might want to read it.
Well, if you tell me it's about a threesome, then...
How about I tell you it's not about a threesome? It leads me to my other point of what I do love about books. Characters you love to hate. I love characters that you're like, but I love them all, but we hate them all, but they good or they bad, I don't know. As you can see, I'm a very, 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 very big Harry Potter fan. Since, forever. But yes, Snape, Malfoy.
I actually just read the Tom Malfoy's autobiography.
Tom Felton?
Yeah.
Was it good?
No. I love to hate Hermione. I do love to hate that one.
Leave Hermione alone.
Alright, second thing I love, speed. I just like it when the book moves. This probably goes back to the whole fluffing thing. When the books just don't move at a good pace, they're not giving you new information. They're just kind of like settling into, describing every single button on a chair. They don't need to do that. Just move on to the next thing. Keep feeding me the story. But I think they need to keep putting in more words. A book that I think is guilty of settling in and taking too long on stuff like that, Harry Potter series. She describes things too much. I get it. She's trying to describe to you a magical universe, but I don't need you to describe me every single hair on the damn centaur.
I don't
Just move
agree.
on. It's a magical creature. It's a wizard. I will imagine the wizard on my own. You do not need to describe so much of the robe, whatever. Okay, a book that I do think moves, an example of that is something like World War Z. It's actually back there. I'm too lazy to grab it right now. I'm not going to risk that whole pile falling down. But World War Z, stuff like that, those books move really, really fast because I think it's also the fact that the author's kind of trying to tell you a history or something that's already happened. It's kind of like one of those books that reads more like a history book. And so there's like a lot of content, a lot of events. And I like that because it keeps you engaged because it keeps giving you like new information. You still disagree.
I just can't believe you said that Harry Potter moves too
slow. Yes, I do think Harry Potter moves a little bit slow at times. It's not really so much that it moves slow. It's I hate it when the authors get too descriptive. I do not need to know exactly how a room looks. You tell me you walk into a tavern, I can imagine a tavern. You do not need to describe the tavern, where people are sitting, how it's being lit. The Da Vinci Code also moves pretty quick. I feel like the pacing. It's one of those books that you can literally feel that it's moving at the same speed that a movie would be moving at.
All right. So my last point, I really love it when, you spend all this time reading a book and devoting all this time to it. And at the very end, it just has like the perfect wrap up that really leaves you thinking, really leaves you feeling satisfied and with a good feeling. Like my Addie LaRue. See, this is the kind of book that to me, like, I see your point about some books being, long and maybe a little too descriptive and sometimes can drag in the middle. But, if you get all through that and then at the very end, it leaves you with such a great ending just when you think it's going to be sad and like depressive. And then at the very end, you get a little bit of hope and a perfect wrap up. It's just so satisfying. And then when you finish the book and you feel like, that was so good, and you're left thinking about it for days, there is no better feeling than that. I feel like with Addie LaRue, it's one of those books that's, a little bit of everything we've talked about what we like, and actually a little bit of everything we've talked about disliking. So honestly, to me, it's just kind of a general recommendation that everyone might like.
Yeah, I think it's one of those books that it is kind of a safe recommendation. Like books are kind of like music and food. Everybody has their own taste. It could be good. Mexican food is great, but not everyone likes it. It doesn't mean it's not great. So, but Addie LaRue is a book that everyone can agree on a baseline that it's like, it's a good book. My last point is actually like about the same. I think that you need to to me, books, a good one has to have something you walk away with that changes you, even like a sliver, that you walk away from that book with something that later on down the line you remember that thing you walked away from, and it makes you remember that book. Books, you need to walk away with something.
Investing all that time and all that energy, you know, you want to be able to remember a book. And I know a lot of the times, if you're like a month later and you just don't remember, either you didn't absorb it correctly or the book was just not memorable and not worth reading. And I feel like books that you do remember, and you do remember the plots, and the little details and the little twists that you remember having that moment, or you remember the experience of reading, I feel like those are the books that are worth reading, recommending. Like, again, 7 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle, another like general recommendation.
You mean 7 Husbands of Evelyn?
Don't confuse me.
But a book also like that is, it could come from books that you don't even expect. Like, for example, the example I would use is The Gunslinger from the Dark Tower series by Stephen King. You know, it's there's quotes in that book that I still remember to this day. What are you reading now?
I'm reading The Measure by Nikki Ehrlich. Great concept. You know, talking about that scale, and definitely has potential to leave me thinking and leave me.
I feel hot. Is it hot?
It's very hot in here. Okay, but I've been reading it for like almost 2 weeks now, and I'm only on page 70. So there's definitely something missing, because I can usually tear through something that I really like in like 48 hours. So there's definitely something missing here that has me kind of not tearing through it and choosing to watch Love at First Sight at night instead of reading like I should be doing. But definitely has a lot of potential. So hopefully it starts to pick up and I finish it, and hopefully it can be a recommendation in the future. We will see. Undecided.
I'm reading A Good Earth.
Start over.
I'm reading A Good Earth. I don't remember who it's from. It's pretty good. It's a bit of a hard read. It's not a fun read. It's not like this super happy book, but it's pretty good so far. It moves. It has the speed that I like. I'm only about 26% into it, but we will see. So far, it's pretty good. I do feel like it has weight to it. Like, I am gonna walk away with something from it.
Yeah, I just don't see how every book you read or listen to doesn't have that speed if you're listening to it at 2.5x speed.
You'd be surprised. Harry Potter.
You're a psycho.
Harry Potter. Anyway, that's pretty good. This does make me hot.
It's wine.
Maybe next time I'll do beer.
If you're still here, thank you so much for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe. You should be sitting.
Like and subscribe.
No, sit down.